I don't think it can be disputed that Street Fighter II is one of the greatest fighting games of all time. From its initial release as Street Fighter II: The World Warrior through its 4 other iterations of Champion Edition, Hyper Fighting, Super, and Super Turbo, Street Fighter II has sold an immense amount of cabinets, game cartridges, and helped to lay the foundation of the fighting game community as we know it today. Street Fighter II even got 3 additional re-releases in Hyper Street Fighter, Turbo HD Remix, and Ultra Street Fighter II, the final challengers. As you can tell by the re-releases, Street Fighter II is a popular game, and, well, why wouldn't it be? It was just that good. It got better with every iteration, it was fun as hell to play, it controlled pretty damn smoothly, created some of the most iconic characters of all time, and inspired dozens of spin-offs, rip-offs, and rival series. Without Street Fighter II, I don't know where the fighting game genre would be right now. But you might notice something a bit odd about the name Street Fighter II. It's the second Street Fighter game, not the first. So, what about Street Fighter 1? There couldn't be a 2 without a 1 after all. Well, since it's released with the 30th anniversary collection of Street Fighter, we can now take a real good look at the game that really started it all. But first, a little background for this title. Released in 1987, Street Fighter 1 was Capcom's first foray into the world of competitive fighting games. The cabinets for Street Fighter 1 also came in one of 2 varieties. The first version to come out featured a normal arcade stick and only 2 massive buttons, one for punch and one for kick. These buttons were pressure sensitive, and with this variant, the strength of your attacks was determined by how hard you smashed these buttons. However, the pressure sensitive buttons were later replaced with your standard 6-button arcade stick layout, since the original layouts were suffering far too much damage from players smashing the buttons too hard like apes. Street Fighter 1 would later be ported to the TurboGrafx PC under the name Fighting Street for some reason, and would see additional ports to a variety of home PCs in 1988, much later making its way onto Capcom Arcade Hits Volume 1, Capcom Classics Collection Remixed, Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2, and finally to the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, where we are today. So, let's not dally any further and start playing Street Fighter 1. Huh, pretty cool little intro, definitely in the vein of Street Fighter 2's. Street Fighter 1 only gives you one character to play as, Ryu. Well, 2, technically. If a second player is to join a fight, he's given control of Ken instead. They're both identical for reference in terms of normals and specials. Thusly, head swaps were given birth to. You're given the choice of where to start as well, either the USA or Japan. This obviously gives you a different starting set of characters to fight, too. There are 10 opponents in Street Fighter 1, broken up by 2s across 5 different countries. Let's start in Japan, since I'm Ryu. Makes sense, right? We start and oh god, this is where the game falls apart entirely. Okay, I over-exaggerate, obviously. I'll try not to be too hard on SF1 since, well, it's basically the first game of its type essentially, but it's kinda hard not to be incredibly hard on it. Normals in this game are incredibly stiff and deliberate. It honestly feels like you're throwing kicks and punches through pudding. It also doesn't help that your normals feel gimpier than an SF5 normal, and fairly unreliable when it comes to their range too. Movement is kinda bizarre in this game as well. You don't walk so much as you just kinda hop forward and backwards on a set grid. It feels really restricting. You also have the ability to jump, obviously, with jump attacks too, but you can only execute these when you're falling, not as you're rising, which is pretty annoying since there were a ton of times where that would have been a nice little ability to have. You have access to your special moves too, with this game establishing the 3 iconic moves that have endured in Ken, Ryu, and every Shoto's movesets throughout all of Street Fighter. The Hadouken, the Shoryuken, and the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku. They also have the exact same inputs they've always had, the classic quarter circle forward punch for the Hadouken, quarter circle back kick for the Tatsu, and forward down down forward for the Shoryuken. But good luck getting these things to come out reliably, especially if you don't know the tech. Tech I'll obviously share, because this game, I'm pretty sure, is impossible using only your normals. To get your specials to come out in a semi-reliable fashion, you need to take advantage of a technique called negative edge, which means, instead of your typical doing the motion, then pressing the button to execute a special move, you have to instead hold the button, do the input, then release the button after executing the input. This is the only way to get your specials to come out reliably, but even with this technique, I still struggle with the Shoryuken. I can reliably do a Shoryu in Street Fighter 2, Alpha, 3, 4, and 5. Fuck, I don't even have any real problems doing 360s, but god help me, punch forward, down, forward in this game is insanely difficult to pull off. I'd like anyone that complains about doing motions in modern day fighting games to please try doing any move in this game, and then shut the hell up about them being so difficult today. Fortunately, the trade-off for specials being so hard to pull off in this game is them being insanely strong damage-wise. Hadoukens do 1/3 of your opponent's life bar, Tatsus do a similar amount of damage but can do more with multiple hits, and Shoryukens, well...
That's a lot of damage!
Yeah. they can instantly kill if done just right. Shoryus, I believe, hit up to 3 times, doing 1/3 of your target's life bar in each hit. Also completely unblockable. So yeah, hard to pull off, insanely powerful as well. Unfortunately for you, this crazy damage extends to your opponent's special moves, and they don't have to dink around with the game's controls to pull them off. A lot of the time, the AI will just casually approach you and completely blow your ass out before you can even do anything. Doesn't help that a lot of the AI's moves are also totally unblockable, and you will not realize this until you're already fucking dead. I can assure you this will happen constantly on your journey across the globe, doing battle with the 10 deadly fighters awaiting you on your journey to the top. If you're a fan of Street Fighter, you might recognize roughly half the opponents in this game, the rest being damned to obscurity for the rest of time. In Japan, you fight Retsu and Geki. Retsu is a banished Shorinji Kempo monk, and Geki is a sweet ninja with a claw. Alright, let's head out of Japan now. In the USA, you fight Joe, a kickboxer who rants about constantly, and definitely not Balrog, also known as Mike. 4 characters so far, and not one that later returned in a future Street Fighter game, though maybe Geki served as inspiration for Vega due to the claw. Another fun, enduring bit in Street Fighter is the occasional bonus level you'll be given between combat stages. You either break bricks in front of a crowd, or break planks of wood in a dojo. I'm not sure how the brick breaking works, to be totally honest, but it's pretty funny when you fuck up at least. I'd also like to take a quick moment to highlight the audio in this game, it being barely understandable garble that I'd have no clue the meaning of without the subtitles. Take a guess at what's being said here. Can't figure it out? It's, I have good fortune. Yeah, I didn't know that either until I looked it up. But, let's get back to the game itself. China. Over to China, where you first face Lee, a fairly generic Chinese martial artist, and Gen, a professional assassin, and another character that successfully managed to escape this mediocre little game. Merry Old England introduces us to Birdie. You know? Something seems a little off here, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Oh yeah, he's black now. Canonically, this is explained in the Alpha series by Birdie merely stating that he was sick. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I buy it. I'm not asking questions anymore. Birdie is followed by another golf tournament Eagle, a stick-fighting bouncer, and actually a pretty cool character that only re-emerged in the crossover title Capcom vs. SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium 2001, before later being added into the portable versions of Street Fighter Alpha 3. And lastly to Thailand to first fight Adon, a scrappy little Muay Thai fighter who probably can be considered a sub-boss with how badly he mollywopped me in my playthrough. I think Adon honestly took me more tries than the final boss. And upon further inspection, that was completely true. Adon took me 35 total attempts to finally put down, while the final boss only took me 15. Don't ever say I don't have tenacity. Final boss being the king of Muay Thai himself, Sagat. Just as imposing as he's always been, the towering Muay Thai master is his usual 7-foot-tall, long-limbed beast self with a fireball that's even more broken than yours in this game. He also completely outdamages and outranges you too. Sagat here definitely stacks up with the legacy of insanely difficult bosses in Street Fighter. Bison, Seth, and Gil would definitely be proud. Basically, the only way to really beat Sagat is to hit a super clean Shoryuken, easier said than done, or to really perfectly time your Hadokens. The Hadoken technique is a little dicey, I can't lie, since Sagat can Tiger Knee straight through them, on top of just smacking them out of existence and taking no damage. You also have to take note of the fact that your fireballs don't negate each other in this game, instead going through each other like a Mortal Kombat game. This can create a pretty frustrating situation where, if you kill Sagat with a fireball, but he managed to get one off as well, you will take the hit from his too, and potentially get double KO'd. I also found out this game handles double KOs kind of strangely. As you see here, Sagat and I both take each other out, resulting in no victory being awarded. I take the next round, and I'm declared the loser? Even though we're only 1-1 technically? Yeah, alright Capcom, whatever. This also happened in my favor as well later on, which resulted in my victory over Sagat and being declared the baddest dude on Earth. Sadly not with the Shoryuken, like in canon, giving Sagat his chest scar and setting up the rivalry between him and Ryu, but a W is a W in this game, and I will take it however I can. Street Fighter 1 ends here after warning you to never stop training, since someone will always be trying to knock you off as King of the Hill. A good message to send to anybody, to be totally honest. So, that's Street Fighter 1. It's kind of hard to believe this game spawned one of the greatest fighting game franchises of all time. Street Fighter 1, to put it bluntly, is a stiff, clunky, brutally difficult, and super frustrating game to play. But, to its credit, it created a lot of the customs you see in fighting games today. 6-button control schemes, motion inputs for specials, holding back to block enemy attacks, bonus stages, and being able to jump into another player's game instantly to challenge them to a bout. Street Fighter 1's influence was also felt throughout the gaming world as well. Golden Axe's lead designer Makoto Uchida actually cited it as a big influence on the Golden Axe game itself. Final Fight originally began as a sequel to this game, but was later reworked into what it is today, and Fatal Fury was created as a spiritual successor to the game too. I want to be harder on this game due to its insane difficulty, but, well, it was basically the first real fighting game to ever come out, at least with how we define fighting games today. There were a few predecessors like Karate Champ and Yi Are Kung Fu, but Street Fighter 1 really laid the groundwork for future titles in my opinion. However, it's still a fighting game though, so I gotta put it on my little list of best of the worst fighting games. For now, I'm gonna slot Street Fighter 1 at number 2. It's not better than Tough Enough, and the legacy it created, I believe, makes it better than Shaq Fu and Masters of Terrace Kasai. And with that placement, I'll end this little video as I always do. My name, it's Hades Manticore. This is City State Manticore. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.